Hi, before we start this video, I gotta tell you all something. So, I'm selling enamel pins that reference a Friday Night Funkin' meme, and I paid for the production of these things like a month ago. Once they were done, literally the next day, Teespring comes out in support of NFTs. So, while I'd love to move shops, I can't. Again, I spent money on these because I adore enamel pins. So listen, there's about 100 of these things, and I'd love for them to sell as soon as possible. Please help me out here. I do not want to continue being on a site that supports NFTs. Alright, now let's get into the video. Hello gamers, I hope you're all doing well. By the way, what I call you all is finally gonna make sense because today we're gonna talk about video games. Specifically, a little game called Friday Night Funkin'. Now, I'm sure that most of you know about this game, but in case you don't, I will briefly explain. Friday Night Funkin' is a 4-button rhythm game. Notes on its development is scarce, but the game prototype was posted to Newgrounds and met unexpected success. On November 1st of 2020, it got updated with more music, a new week, a free play mode, and updated art assets. Since then, it has been updating more and more. Now we have 7 weeks, multiple characters, and over 20 songs that are all just bops. That is literally all we know on its development since it's so new. Although, something I quickly want to say is that the game has a massive, and I mean massive, modding community. There is so much creativity in the Friday Night Funkin' modding community, anything from skins to custom songs to new full-blown weeks. There's even mods that just reskin the entire game. It's honestly crazy, and props to everybody in the modding community. So with that out of the way, I'll get to the point. On April 18th, 2021, they had an announcement for the Friday Night Funkin' Kickstarter. The asking goal was $60,000, and its main goals are things like new weeks, 60 new songs, new mechanics to spice up the gameplay, and more. They're offering plenty of awards for your help, things like pins, vinyls, cassettes, posters, the usual. The asking price of $60,000 is reasonable, but I personally don't think that you can make a game with just $60,000. However, the fans went beyond the asking price. In the first 2 days, they reached about $100,000. At the time of writing this, I can't even tell you how much they have raised because it most likely has changed since then. So, looking through this page, it seems like pretty normal Kickstarter stuff. Like, I don't see any reason to hate on it. Oh fuck, I totally forgot. There's people on this earth who don't want to pay creators anything and just want shit for free. Okay, so something I didn't mention is that this Kickstarter, like most game funding campaigns, has stretch goals. So the first, for example, is if they get over 85,000, then they'll port the game over to mobile devices. The highest possible goal is if they reach 1,865,000, then they'll add an epilogue that spans over 10 weeks. I really hope I'm doing my math here correctly. So, considering that they'll be adding 10 more weeks, that would mean adding about 30 more songs and using over 20 new art assets. That is, if they're not going to be reusing previous ones. Also consider that will take even more programming, and let's not forget everything else that's on this list. I really do not believe that the final goal being almost 2 million is ridiculous, especially when the team consists of 4 people. And yet, this is when we get to the stupid people who complain on Twitter. So, people have had complaints that the stretch goals are overpriced, which is strange wording considering that you're not being charged anything. It is an optional goal. Are people really acting like you have to pay $665,000 for online multiplayer? There's also people saying that the team doesn't deserve money because it is quote-unquote a simple flash game, so I guess they don't need that much money. Guys, it's not made in Flash. It's not a Flash game. It was developed in Hack's Flixel. It is literally right there when you start the game. Are you joking? Alright, fine. Let's just look through these stretch goals, okay? Let's just see how unreasonable these stretch goals are that they're claiming. Okay, so the first goal is a mobile build. So, just porting the game over to Android and iOS. Next is a custom character creator, then a sharing network, full animated cutscenes, 5 additional weeks, online multiplayer, 5 more weeks, 10 plus playable characters, even more weeks, erect difficulty, and lastly, a 10 plus week epilogue. Now, that sounds like a lot of work, and that's because it is. Now, I won't touch on how long it takes for art assets to be done for those new weeks just yet. First, I want to touch on the technical stuff. So this is specifically about the online in-game hub for custom songs and mods. Basically, think of it as a Steam workshop. Now, the price on this can vary depending on how they want to go at it. However, let's look at the bigger picture here. Something else that they want to do is an online multiplayer and online leaderboards. So I'd imagine that for this, they'd have to set up game servers. Okay, so again, a game server, it depends how they want to set it up. It also depends on the game and the number of players that will connect to it. Then you have to take into account if it is a dedicated server or not, which can change the process altogether. The cost of running a server is rather inconsistent. From what I can find, the general cost is either from $5 to $150 a month, and that is for renting one. Running one yourself is a whole other can of worms. You won't have to pay for the rent, but you'll still have to pay for those electrical costs. From what I can find, a server on average can take from 500 to 1,200 watts per hour to operate. Now, I hate doing math, but we're gonna do some math. Let's say, for example, I wanted to run a server. Let's meet in the middle and say that it takes about 900 watts to run a server. Now, in my state, it is 11 cents per kilowatt. So if I wanted to run a server for 24 hours a month, that would cost me $71.01. Now, times that by the amount of days in a year, and that would make it $25,951.05. So, yeah, if you don't get it yet, game servers are expensive. But, nah, they're asking for too much money. Fuck them, am I right? Now, maybe some of you are thinking, hold on, you can't accurately calculate how much it would cost the staff to run a server, and, I mean, yeah, duh. My goal here isn't to do that, but to get people to understand why the stretch goal is what it is. So, taking in mind the cost of the server itself, remember that there is still programming to be done so that the game can work in the first place, along with art assets, and I'd imagine the Kickstarter also helps cover living expenses of the team while developing the game. So, after all of that, I don't think that just using a slice of $665,000 to cover server expenses for online multiplayer and the work that goes into it is not as outrageous as people say it is. So basically the rest of the stretch goals are either art or programming related. I'm not a programmer, so while I'm not really sure I can speak confidently on the amount of work that goes into programming, I can speak confidently on the art and animation side of it. So I'm no game designer and I've never made a video game. However, I have made mods for this game. For this example, I'm just going to go ahead and use the first mod I made, which is myself going over the GF. Now the GF has a handful of sprites, her idol, the tutorial, the hair blowing animations, etc. All the sprites on the basic animation sheet took about 7 hours to do. Mind you, this was just drawing and posing them correctly so that they could be animated. After that, it took about 2 hours to edit a Christmas outfit and the speakers. Then I edited sprites for week 4, which took about an hour. So altogether, the art itself took about 10 hours to make, which is a lot of fucking time. Now onto the animation. First things first, I didn't actually animate the sprites. I had help from someone called Ricker Ragdoll. This is their DeviantArt. I asked him how long he thinks that he took to make the animations. According to him, It varied from half an hour to 2 hours on weekdays, and on weekends it was either 4 or 2 hours. To make a proper estimate of how much he could have possibly worked on this, let's just meet in the middle. Let's say that on weekdays he worked for 1 hour and on weekends he worked for 2. Now the animation process took about 27 days. I used our DMs to be sure exactly how many Saturdays and how many Sundays had passed. Now if I did my math correctly, that means that the animation process took about 36 hours. Here is all of the animations done for my mod. This mod, overall, took 46 hours to make. Here's something to think about. The mod isn't even technically done because, week 6 is a thing, and I'm not a good pixel artist. Now just imagine having to do this process for an entire game. But apparently, some of y'all still don't fucking get it. So again, making games is time-consuming and expensive. Unless you're somebody who's just uneducated about game development, this isn't a difficult concept to understand. You know what? I'm gonna pound this into your head a little more. Let's go back to the stretch goals. At the time of writing this, the Kickstarter is almost super close to the last goal noted here. If reached, that means that the final game will have about 46 plus weeks in total, which means 135 new songs, not to mention tons of new art assets like backgrounds, sprites, fully animated cutscenes, all this work, and it's just around 2 million? That is genuinely insane. This is a lot of stuff for my tiny peanut brain to handle, and there's still a lot on this Kickstarter to discuss. I can't handle all of this by myself. You know what? No, I'm not gonna handle this all by myself. Give me a second.
Friday night yet.
Hey Nezzie, I've summoned you here because I require your help.
Beep.
Yeah, see, there's these people online who think that Friday Night Funkin's Kickstarter is a scam, and they just don't get how game development works.
Bop.
So you'll help me, right?
Bop.
Oh my god. I think I remember.
3, 2, 1, go!
Howdy. You may remember me as the one who did the mathematics in Fuchsia Butter's video about Yandere Dev. Before I have people jumping my throat about budgeting and comparison between the two, Yandere Dev is using Patreon and the team for Friday Night Funkin' is using Kickstarter. If you do the math, the people currently funding Yandere Simulator have now paid either $1 or $100 for slightly over 6 years. To simplify, that's $72 or $7,200 for the promise of an up to 5-second logo for a game that can barely function due to a toothbrush. Friday Night Funkin' is going to cost, drumroll please, $20. The purpose of my portion today is because of all the people complaining about all the money the Kickstarter has made since it was launched in April, and most importantly, the stretch goals that were seen floating around Twitter causing a major uproar. Before we get into that, however, to address a couple things, Xena and I are aware of the past of one of the creators being NinjaMuffin99. He has posted an apology. Personally, the apology had its moments, but if you choose not to forgive him, that is your choice. But don't harass people that do enjoy the game. Plus, constantly bringing up a person's past when they've addressed it shows you don't want them to grow, you just want a person to shit on. There is literally no point in growing as a person when people do nothing but shit on you regardless. Anyway, Xena brought me on to do a bit of a budget breakdown and some explanation for the stretch goals for people that apparently don't know how Kickstarter works. As someone who has funded multiple projects, I have a bit more experience in this field. I'm not really going to get that much into the numbers game, but I am going to basically be breaking down the categories and the things people are actually paying for these stretch goals to have been reached. I will also be going on about some of the arguments that have been made against why they don't deserve money, because they're sad. Something to make note of is that something Kickstarter is often used for is, obviously, making your own products. The reasons why I'm going into this is because I have a feeling that the people complaining literally didn't look at the actual Kickstarter and just saw the screenshot of the stretch goals. Most of the things that I've funded for are eat-a-bags and pins, because I'm trash. A Kickstarter will always have a base budget to tell the creator that the product they are advertising is worth creating in the first place. The major risk that comes with making anything you want to sell is, well, that nobody wants to buy it. which can lead in a loss of finances and wasted material. People can donate via tiers similar to Patreon. You pay for what you want, as the tier will tell you what you receive if you give the necessary funding. Your card will not be charged until the project has been deemed successful, and there is a period where you can cancel or change the card if necessary. Objects have to also be priced more than how much it costs to make in order to make a profit. For example, an enamel pin may cost $5 each to produce, so the seller may set it up to be $10. This not only makes up the cost of the product, but also the cost of the items they may put in for decoration, such as business cards, stickers, and various packaging.
But Nezzie, the game is digital and doesn't need all that fancy schmancy stuff. In fact, it's already technically free, and then there's a bunch of mods.
I don't know why I read it that way. We'll get to that, but you are right. In the case of Friday Night Funkin', this is a digital product, which goes to show the people complaining, again, didn't look at the tiers. I donated $72. When the Kickstarter hits its due date, this is what I will be receiving. A digital copy of the game, a digital art book, a credits attribution, my choice of a BF, GF, or Pico t-shirt, and Volume 1 soundtrack in the form of cassette tapes. The base tier was the t-shirt for $50, and then I added one of the cassette tapes for $12. The $50 t-shirt tier, as I'm writing this, has nearly slightly over 2,800 backers. That alone is $140,000 and well over the initial $60,000 budget necessary to make the Kickstarter successful. The other physical items you can pay for are vinyl, CDs, and pins. Plus, one of the goals is to make a PlayStation 1 port of the game, meaning at some point they intend to possibly make physical copies. Here's the other thing that people don't seem to understand about stretch goals. They are not the main priority of the product. Funding them shows that people want to support the product and see it become more varied with additional things. In this case, it's more funding for more time to add more to the game than what was originally planned for the base game, which already has a lot, including translations and collaborations. It's to create an aspect of incentive to expand, essentially. Plus, keep in mind the money that you currently see technically doesn't belong to them yet. You can back out at any time. You literally didn't even have to fund them in the first place. Ah, yes, the mods argument. Why should we pay for character creation and yada yada when there are mods? Well, for one thing, it shows that you just want free shit, because what happens when the modders themselves start wanting some compensation? If you yourself don't have artistic skills or programming skills, then what are you going to do when someone hasn't made the mod you specifically want? Whine until someone makes it, because I know you sure as hell ain't going to commission somebody! Some people may want specific characters or songs themselves, but may not know how to do it, which is why not only is there going to be character creation, but also a way to make your own chart systems with songs you personally have for people that may not be good at programming. Plus, the creators of FNF have acknowledged the modding community and actively wish to support it by giving them a specific place to share content and helping people who may be a bit nervous messing with files. Plus, it would be great to, be able to switch out different mods and not have to have multiple copies of the game or constantly switch out the files so that you can choose which game to play. Support the original creators to things instead of flocking to stuff that's free. You wouldn't even have the base content if not for them. Plus, it may actively discourage other indie devs when people so blatantly do this kind of stuff. Sure, it's great having a fan base and a community, but people have to eat and pay bills. Well, get a job! This is a job. A job you want to take advantage of by making people seem worth less than they actually are, but actively gain from still. There are mobile ports, they work fine.
Oh, it just throws me into the next one. Why is he
The fact
just...
that
look,
the fact
he's
that
just
the music and the arrows are so off sync. Oh, I think you have to press the one that's in the circle.
Are you fucking kidding me? It looks like GF is losing her fucking mind.
I like how the boyfriend and the dad only have one move.
I like the fact that boyfriend is out of focus.
But this indie game did it for less.
Yes, they did, and they suffered for it. Let's go through the most common ones. Undertale was finished after over 2 years. The team consisted of only 2 people. There are constant rumors of him nearly going broke during the process of development, plus apparently one of the stretch goals wasn't completed, that being the alarm clock app, which did get mentioned again in 2017, a whole 2 years after Undertale was initially released. Toby Fox also expected the game to be completed in August 2014, and it ended up being released September of 2015. Omori. Despite the fact they accomplished the stretch goal of doing a 3DS port, they may not continue with that previous promise due to the fact that the game was released 6 years after it was funded. It got to the point where people were worried that they had burned through funding or had even ran off with the money, supposedly due to lack of communication according to multiple threads. Shovel Knight. The creators flat out went broke. There was a whole article dedicated to the struggles they faced in development, and keep in mind that the final funding they did have was over $300,000, so more than some of the projects brought up, and they still went broke. Hollow Knight. A lot of the pledges involve people making content for the game, so in a way, people paid the creators to make content for the game. Kinda taking away the need to fund for character concepts and designs, plus funded in 2014, expected to be on the Wii U, but ended up moving over to the Switch and finally released in 2018. Cuphead. I never saw anyone bring these guys. They didn't even have a Kickstarter in comparison to the previous ones. I just thought it was funny nobody brought them up. I wonder why. Something I want to make clear is that I'm not calling out these developers or trying to be mean. Even with the mentions of the criticisms, that's kinda just the risks that come with Kickstarters and game creation in general. Times change, people change, ideas change during the process of putting out such a complex product. I'm trying to bring a perspective when it comes to indie game development as a whole. Every game has different needs, and more importantly, a different fan base that's willing to support it in the first place. How many of you even knew about these games before the Kickstarters were made? All of these creators have made games that have changed the game when it comes to independent creators. Pieces of art that are arguably better than most AAA games on the market today made by small teams. Games that have actually changed how people see things and brought a lot of people joy and hope in sometimes really weird ways. Plus, why are people blaming the team for receiving money? That makes no sense to me at all. You don't have to give them money. And to the people saying, it's a simple Flash game, Jesus Christ, is that disrespectful. By that logic, Undertale is shit because it's pixelated and not high quality like The Last of Us, and Omori is just another RPG Maker game. I have seen people flat out say, I'm not paying $80,000 for a mobile port. Like, dude, they aren't expecting you to. Again, most of the money is coming from tiers that have more to them. People aren't just throwing money at a project for nothing. You are receiving more bang for your buck than you think, and the game is more complicated than being a simple rhythm game. There are unused assets of a combat system. They want to add translations, which will cost money for translators. They want to collab with other creators for designs, animations, and songs, which cost money. Fully animated cutscenes that cost money. A new game mechanic, entirely meaning more complex coding and animations that cost money. 4 members that need to be paid to eat and have a house that costs money. Do you see where I'm getting at yet? Again, it's almost like people didn't read the Kickstarter. Considering the fact that one of the dudes that argued with Xena thought that she was talking about actual work weeks in comparison to the game's weeks and openly admitted to not having played the game, I'm not surprised in the slightest. Plus, one person saying they could have supported their family with 1K and bringing up fucking hate crimes. First, how do you know they aren't supporting their families with the money each person on the team is making on this project with money that they earned and worked for? And second, by that logic, we literally can't have anything fun ever until the problems in the world are solved. That's a stupid argument. Get out. Anyway, Friday Night Funkin' is cool, and I look forward to feeling like a stock vaporwave clip when I listen to my cassette tapes on the train.
Wonderfully said, Nezzie. Now, please leave. I must continue to be mad that stupid people exist. Now, after all that, I really, really hope that people are getting the message and that I don't need to repeat myself. I'm absolutely tired of telling people that games are expensive and time-consuming. I don't want to see any more of these types of tweets. Not even if they're quote-unquote bait, like this person likes to claim. Oh, it was bait, was it? Who cares? You still brought an entourage of people who just outright believe that game developers don't deserve money because their game is quote-unquote a simple Flash game. Also, just so you know, when you say it's bait just to backpedal on your stupid tweet, no one believes you. So in the end, is the Kickstarter for Friday Night Funkin' a scam, like how some people claim? I don't know. And you don't know either. The game isn't done. I mean, its Kickstarter just barely ended, and the rewards haven't been handed out. So why are others calling it a scam? Why? Because they ask for money? Because they ask for aid so that they can work on a game full-time? Oh yeah, how dare they? A crime punishable by death, I'm sure. Jokes aside, I have high expectations for this game, since I really do enjoy it, and that's coming from me, someone who really doesn't play rhythm games. So, I wish the team the best of luck with their development, and I await my enamel pin reward. Thank you very much for watching this video, gamers. Also, please buy my pin so that I can move shops. Please, please, and thank you. I'll be seeing you in the next video.